Cops, Central Organization of Police Specialists. Fighting crime in a future time. Protecting Empire City from Big Boss and his gang of crooks. It's crime fighting time.
What is up, my ninjas? I'm Strydent, and welcome back to another video. I know it's been a while. I'm kind of opting to leave the YouTube game to some of the others while I cultivate a toy company and a toy line. But I have to say, I've been watching what's been brewing, the other videos that have been out there, and some of these reviews are leaving a lot to be desired about a character that's been around for as long as Bulletproof has. Granted, Cops was not like the most successful toy line, but you guys know it's near and dear to my heart. I learned a lot of things from Larry Hama's writing, and the approach that the toys took to world building. And some of these characters were just awesome. And if you saw if you were rocking with me for a long time, you know that in the past I did a series in which I collected the whole line and I gave you my insights about them and all of that stuff. And so, needless to say, Cops is a big part of my childhood. It's probably one of the few places where you will hear me get nostalgic. So after seeing the disservice that a lot of those other videos did, I'm taking it upon myself to put out a definitive video to give you guys the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between about this figure. So let's knuckle up, get yourself something to drink, something to eat if necessary, and we are going to take a look at the Big Bad Workshop Cops Bulletproof figure. All right, so before we get into the figure, I want to talk about the box, which sports beautiful artwork by Bart Sears. He is a comic book legend. I learned a lot about anatomy and everything from him. Here's the side. Pretty nice. Got the Big Bad Workshop logo on there, so you know where it's coming from. You open it up, you've got a comic book page on one side and the window on the other side. It's very similar to how Monster Force is set up. Love the artwork. Very straightforward. Colors look pretty nice. This is meant to look like a badge, kind of, sort of. The back of the box looks just like the old stuff. It also has that cool Cops ID card, which is something that's been missing from the G.I. Joe classifieds. I think they started out with it and then they stopped doing it. But I think the information here is the same info as the original one. It's just a new set of artwork. And here's the original. And I would say they match up. You can tell different things. Some of the fonts are a little bit different, but all the information, it's the same. So, kudos to them for doing that. Okay, let's talk about the big dog. Once you get him out of his box, he looks pretty good. He looks like a good representation of the vintage figure, but upscaled and kind of retooled according to modern sensibilities, modern general standard domestic action figure sensibilities. And I have to be very clear on this because I would have gone in a slightly different direction. And I think that when you revive an old figure line, that's what you need to do. But his head sculpt looks great. The hair looks nice. The glasses look good. The paint is really clean. I do like the fact that they made his skin darker than the original. The jacket or the coat, I'm sorry, trench coat looks really good. I like the buttons and the fact that the buttons are actual buttons. The fact that all the details that were actually printed on the original are now physically there on this figure. Buttons again on his sleeves. Everything looks like a more detailed reimagining. The feet look about the same, but he has more articulation. Now, of course, you know that he is a cyborg underneath, so opening up his jacket and you get all that detail. They kept everything in exactly the same spots as the original, except the pants are slightly different. But I like what they've done. It's still updated, but it looks more like the artwork, a little bit more, I have the OG, so I'm gonna put them side by side so you can see that. And you can see that he's a little bit streamlined and kind of skinny in comparison to the old one. He doesn't have the overly muscular body that the OG ones have, which is what Bart Sears is known for. So I'm a little not feeling that they changed that, but it still works, Okay, and then moving on to what he looks like without the coat. You can see he's, like I said, a lot slimmer than the original. It still looks good. He has a pretty muscular upper body, but in general, he just looks slimmer altogether. But you get the stretch of the shirt. You got the parts where the pants connect to his lower thigh. It almost feels like those legs, he has like skinnier, almost endoskeleton type legs going into those thighs. It's my least favorite part of the design, but the chest piece looks really cool. You can see it looks like armor. Piece of trivia, in Brazil, his code name is Armored, not Bulletproof. But yeah, I mean, it looks good. He looks cybernetic. He looks pretty tough. All right, now let's jump into the articulation. So he's on a ball joint. His head is on a ball joint. You get the side-to-side action, which is pretty good. You get the tilt a little bit too, because the neck is also on a ball joint. He can look up. He's got a ball joint that's on a hinge. So that's how much you get without, what you saw previously is without the hinge. This is with the hinge. So we can look all the way up using the hinge, much like many of the Marvel Legends. Looking down, you can kind of get a little bit, more if you wanted. This is the full range of motion between his legs, arms, and twist at the waist. He's got a decent amount. You see he's almost all the way to the side. Leaning back, you get more than leaning forward, which is usually the case on American figures. I don't get why this is. Double jointed elbows, as you saw with the other picture, and he also has double jointed knees. The cool thing they added here is the butterfly joint, so he gets that full range of motion where he can put his arms a lot closer. You can force it a little bit more, but for weapons, which is what I needed, he can be a weapon specialist. And I love that. You can actually have him using his gun the way a cop should be using his gun. He can support his gun hand. He can look at the gun. I mean, like, you would need to support your gun hand. You give him a rifle, same deal. You got the proper etiquette when using, the proper discipline when using your rifle. So they really up the ante when it comes to the amount of articulation he has. Also, his hands, he's got up and down hands as well as in and out hands. So, if you use a gun, he can do whatever. Knees, double jointed, which is perfect. And it's more than 90, and he has a nice twist, which is exactly where you think it is on the thigh. He can kick up about that much. There's no drop down. I honestly don't need the drop down. I find that compromises the integrity of that barbell joint. But the way that things are, he can kick a pretty decent amount. I used to always make him kick because a cyborg with robotic legs, why not, you know? And so that's his full split. So overall, you know, he's pretty damn posable. It doesn't look too bad when you try to force more of the articulation. All right, so his accessories. He comes with a decent amount of stuff. It looks like essentially they gave you what the original came with and then some, which is nice because it makes your, I guess, options for posing and for, you know, setting him up in dioramas and stuff a little bit different. It almost looks like he came with more stuff than what we were initially shown in this picture. And I'm cool with that. He has more hands, which is nice. The gun itself has the two effect pieces, and you still got the case. The case does open up. You've got this extra belt. I'm going to talk more about this and this next piece, which is the stand, in a little bit. But yeah, you got a decent amount of stuff. The gun very well mimics the original gun, which I like because, like, we don't have caps in this day and age. We don't use them like that, but they also made the gun smaller and lighter so it doesn't weigh down their arms when you put them stretched out shooting or, you know, holding the gun like a heavier gun, like a submachine gun or something. Like, he can actually just one-hand it and it doesn't put any strain on his arms. And then you have effect parts that just kind of top off the quality of the weapon. Now, I do have some things to say about what's wrong with this figure, and I'm going to get into it right now. My man's coat. You're looking at him straight on, it looks cool until you look at his sleeves. Why did you give him the hand-me-down coat? The sleeves are so far up, it's crazy, and like you can position it all you want and it still comes up short. And it's weird because you look at the comic and it's like everything's longer, you know? You look at just where his arms lie, just how much of the cuff of his shirt is showing, and it's just a little bit, so you know that the coat needs to be longer. Just to show you that I'm not bugging, here's my custom from years and years ago. I bought that coat off of eBay. It's a custom secondhand coat, and look at it. It looks right. But then you look at what's going on with, you know, him and new school Bulletproof, and it's like a world of difference. That should not be. Now, I do have a fix. I don't know that everyone will be able to do it, but I have a fix. Now, the fix I will get to towards the end of the video. I still got a couple more things to point out. Well, really one more thing. The belt, the second belt with the buckle, the metal buckle. It looks beautiful when you have it like this, but as soon as you look at the end, you realize you have an issue and you're gonna need to use a tool of some sort to push it through because it's a little bristled out, you know, kind of fuzzed out. And you're gonna need to find a way to force that through the opening. So I just recommend sticking with the other one. Both of them have a wire inside, so you can use it to close up. Next up, we've got the stand. Now you see that beautiful tampograph is on top of the pegs when it should be in the center of the pegs, in between the pegs or below the pegs, but it shouldn't be on top of it because, you know, after you've put your figure's feet on that, you're going to eventually scrape off some of that tampograph. It's been done both ways where you have the embossed or etched version of the logo in there, but you got the pegs on the sides like you see with the Cobra, and the G.I. Joe ones did them both ways. They did one peg outside of the, you know, embossed logo, and then they did it where there was two, and one of them was in the middle of the, you know, the actual typeface. It was like where one of the periods were for the G and I. I think it was the one after. It's the one after the I. you could do it either way, but the Cobra one is a good example of how it should be positioned to make things look right.
We now return to your regularly scheduled program.
The case, attaché case, whatever you want to call it, it's pretty nice. It's well done. It feels just like the original one. You can now actually remove the handle so that you can take the cuffs off if you want. That was something I wish the original could do, because I think we cut the thing to get it off. When you open it up, it reveals the same detail as the original vintage version. I would have liked for them to add some of these as actual accessories. That would have made more sense, considering that, nowadays we have tech that allows us to make sculpts that are way smaller and way more intricate than what we used to be able to do back in the day. And you can make them actually sturdier. Now, the next thing that came to mind was, I could store all the little accessories, which would be the muzzle flash and the smoke. I immediately put it in there thinking, you know what I mean? It should fit. It looked small enough, skinny enough, thin enough, and it looked like it was deep enough. But I was kind of wrong. It looks like it's kind of deep enough on the bottom, but for some reason, it's not so much on the top, which is kind of weird. You would have thought that they would have just made them exactly the same size, because I used to put all kinds of stuff in the old one. When you close it, it doesn't stay closed. It doesn't even close at all. It barely even, closes. So you can't put anything in there. You might be able to put just the smoke, but you can't put the muzzle flash. So womp womp. I was kind of sad about that. I thought for sure you'd be able to do that, but no. Now with the vintage one, like I said, I used to put all kinds of stuff, and you can see it's all one sculpt with the exception of the handles. So it's one mold, I guess I should say, that has a piece of plastic. It doesn't have hinges in the traditional sense like the modern one does. Instead, it has plastic holding it, which over time, depending on how much you played with this thing, you could wear that out and, it'll break. You can see there's already stress there just by virtue of it bending. If you were careful with it, it'll be like mine. You know what I mean? You'll still have it. So I closed it and it worked. No problems there. And I kind of expected as much, because it's kind of that sort of thing. You know what I mean? He has a gang of hands that I didn't talk about before, which start with these pointing hands. They look really good and authoritative. Every leader character needs this, It's like kind of a normal thing. He's got his badge, which is pretty awesome. It's very well detailed, and it's attached to his hand. Then he has this alternate head, which is smiling. Now, what it's supposed to be is for the pose at the end of the intro, where he pulls his glasses down and he says, "It's crime fighting time." And you see he's looking at us. But the way that he is situated, that's not the case with the toy. They needed to make the eyes kind of off to the side, like a knowing glance kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? But everything else about it is well done. It looks good. It's very clean. And it's, obviously it's evocative of that specific moment from the cartoon. And now the part I know you guys have been waiting for a long time, the jacket fix. So there are a couple ways that you can approach this. The original jacket itself, it's not terrible altogether. You know what I mean? It's just the sleeves are short. So if you have, there's a couple things. The sleeves are short, and the way that the jacket is constructed, it's made to look good from the outside, and not too much care was taken with hiding and moving, constructing the jacket in a way that keeps the frayed parts on the inside and not popping out on the outside. So you'll see fraying going on at the bottom of the coat itself and through the sleeves. Now, you can go about fixing this in two ways. I would recommend you just buy another coat, like I did with my old Bulletproof. Or if you have the Metropolis Guardian or Protector of Metropolis, use that coat. It's the length of the coat that Bulletproof wears in the TV show, in the cartoon, and it's made of the kind of quality you expect from like import figures, high quality stuff. Once you do that, you end up with this beautiful look. He looks so together and like the leader that we all know and love. Now he looks like the leader of the cops team that we all know and love. And it just looks more together. There's no frayed parts. It's clean. It just looks more on point. But now you're left with the question, what do I do with the stock jacket? Simple ass fix. Now you can use the stock jacket on the original figure if you have it. If not, you can use it for something else, obviously. But if you have the OG figure, this fixes the problems that the OG figure had. I mean, we all know that the OG figure, and I'm gonna put it side by side with this one, he had drawn on parts on the jacket. So now you don't have to do that. Now he looks official, and so you have equally stylish looks amongst both versions of your Cops collection. All right, jumping right in, we're going to compare them to my custom Bruce Wayne and the Muff Toys Protector or Guardian of Metropolis. That's where this trench coat comes from. Figured it was only fitting to do such a thing. Here is the McFarlane Batman 89. Here's the Lee Bermejo Page Punchers Batman and the Mezco Sovereign Knight. NECA RoboCop. I had to put him in there, childhood and everything. Here is the Monster Force Airborne Sleepwalker and John Wick. The Delta Red and Black Watch agent, also from Monster Force. And this one is a childhood throwback. Had to do it. And yeah, that's all the comparisons. This is childhood shit right here. Had to put them all together just so you could see, And now for the bottom line, my favorite part. So, they did many things very well, but as a big fan of Cops, I feel like there's certain things that weren't done as well. And I'm using Monster Force kind of as the stick by which I'm measuring all this stuff. The coat needs a little bit of work in the tailoring department. That takes away from things, but in most shots, you won't see the sleeves. So he's pretty dope in that respect, He looks much like the figure from the 80s with better posability, which is a huge plus. You can do stuff with him now that you couldn't do before. The overall look, once you make the fix that I gave you, also helps make the figure that much more appealing. You know what I mean? He looks dope. He looks awesome. He looks like he can take on whatever you're going to put him up against. And, that's pretty cool. I mean, I know most of you are just going to put him up on your shelf. That brings me to another piece that kind of compelled me to have to do this, is that a lot of the reviews, you're seeing and listening to the perspective of someone who, mostly people who have no ties to the figure, to the character. They don't know who he is. They didn't watch Cops. Nothing. They just thought the figure looked interesting and also hype. I grew up on the show. I've explained how Cops influenced a lot of the way that I go about with world building and such. So he's an important character to people like me, I played with the figures. I didn't have very many of them when I was a kid, but as an adult, I was able to go back and get the entire collection, vehicles and all, with very few that I chose not to go after. I want to say there was like 2 things I ignored. You can find those on my channel. I have a playlist set up just for that. But for me, I have higher standards than the rest because most people, it's just, does the figure look cool? Yes. Okay, cool. I'm going to put him up on my shelf. For me, I'm going to play around with the figure. I need it to recapture some of that feeling I get when I get a good figure that I want to play with it every time. So, you know, it's like a B figure for everyone else, general audiences. It's a C for me. They didn't fail, don't get me wrong, and I'm just being objective. You know, we all got to bring our A game, and this is an older figure from an old franchise. But there's always this guy. If you smell what I'm cooking, and I'm pretty sure you do. But that's going to do it for me. Keep it here if you want to learn more about this beast of an individual right here. And that's it for me. You guys have been great. Peace outside.